Okay, hello everyone. We are officially live. So just want to give a minute to let people join, but excited to be joined here by Christine, Chelsea, and Eleanor, some of my awesome colleagues, and we'll get started in a minute. Okay, so just to keep an eye on time, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I can see my fellow panelists, so kind of get a nod if the screens look okay for you guys. Cool. Okay, so welcome again, everyone. We are excited to join you all for a community town hall. So we started these last year among COVID, knowing that we couldn't connect with you all in person, and we've continued to do them because they've been an amazing way to connect with our greater community. And so as we welcome you all today, I also wanted to share our gratitude and our thanks to a longtime partner and our presenting sponsor, Crollo, for these town halls. And then here is our agenda for today. We are going to keep our call to about 45 minutes, so it's a little bit shorter than previous town halls. So we'll get on moving. We're going to start with a brief overview of the global water crisis and then dive into our work and impact model called Everyone Forever. Some of you might be new to Water for People, so just learning about our work or looking for a refresher. So this is a great overview. We're excited to hear from Christine, Chelsea, and Eleanor to get a little bit more detail on the work that we do. So in this first section, we'll also be asking for your participation. So look out for 2 poll questions that Eleanor will be leading. After that, we'll discuss our COVID-19 response and some of the impact that we've seen on our programming before we hear from Christine to share more ways to get engaged with Water for People. Then we'll end with a Q&A session, which is my favorite part of these calls. And we say thank you to those who submitted questions beforehand. So just a little Zoom reminder, there are 2 ways that you can connect with us while on the call. So there's a chat feature, and so you can chat and tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and you can submit questions in the Q&A feature. So it's just a separate button on the bottom of your tab for Zoom. And so we will take questions throughout the call, so you can put those in the Q&A session, and we'll get to those in that last part of the Q&A session. And then before I pass it off, I just wanted to say also that each of my colleagues who are joining me today will be sharing their answer to the following icebreaker question. The past year, of course, was full of unexpected challenges on a personal level for all of us and as an organization as well. So we'll be hearing from each of our speakers what was one silver lining you've experienced personally and one you've witnessed or observed at Water for People. So with that in mind, I am going to pass it off to Eleanor.
Thanks, Julia. Welcome everyone to this town hall. I'm Eleanor Allen, CEO. And for the icebreaker response, my silver lining is being with my family. So in my case, I had a 20-year-old son who moved back home when the campus got shut down and he went totally remote at university. And he had been gone for a gap year the year before as a foreign exchange student. So it was really great reconnecting with my no longer teenage, but adult son. And also having him spend time with our younger son, who's a high school freshman. So that's my silver lining. So what's next, Julia? All right, so I just wanted to share my gratitude and appreciation for you being part of the Water for People family. On this photo, you can see that I'm here on one of our at one of our program sites. This is in Malawi at a community water kiosk with the Water Users Association. And in my role, I do have the opportunity in non-COVID times to visit our programs in our 9 countries. And it's also one of my favorite things and very inspiring and motivational to see the amazing work that we're participating in and helping with in our country programs. If you want more information about me or want to contact me or read some of the things I've written, you can, or see my TEDx, you can see my information here. All right, so this is the first poll question. How many people around the world don't have access to clean water? Does the result pop up, Julia? Okay, yay! Here it is. So we got a split answer here. And the answer is, it's 2 billion. Nearly 1 in 3 people around the world don't have access to safe water. It's a lot of people. So going on to the next one. Okay, trickier. How many people around the world don't have access to adequate or improved sanitation? So yes, we're on the higher end here. 3.3, the actual answer is 4.5 billion. And what we mean by improved sanitation is about having a proper toilet and having a place to go to the bathroom. So we're not talking about trash, we're talking simply about sanitation, which is the word we use because we don't have sewer systems in the rural areas or the peri-urban areas that we work. And so yes, 1 in 2 people around the world don't have access to adequate sanitation. So this is highly motivating to us at Water for People and to me especially. This is one of my favorite things that we do. All right, and I will now pass it over to Chelsea.
Hi everyone, I am Chelsea Reppin. I'm a business development manager at Water for People. I'm one of our newer employees, so I've only been with Water for People for about 8 months. And the best part about my job is really getting to connect with our many partners and supporters. And a silver lining I've experienced during the pandemic is definitely that the COVID-19 challenges have really caused people to be creative. And that can be creativity connecting with your friends and families in new ways. And also at Water for People, seeing the creative ways that we've been able to virtually connect with supporters like these town halls. And this is my first town hall, so I'm very excited to be participating. So now that Eleanor has told us a little bit about the problem, let's talk about the solution. There has been decades of work dedicated to breaking the cycle of poverty, but we've seen the patterns, especially in water and sanitation, that don't make positive, long-term, meaningful change. When development work does not include the voices, leadership, and buy-in of local communities, it is largely unsuccessful. And the cycle of poverty continues even if it was paused for a time. So we switched from quick fixes in 2011 and short-term wins to focusing on what we call our everyone forever model, which is pretty straightforward. It is everyone having access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene services forever. So let's take a look at Water for People's everyone forever model and why it's a lasting solution.
Every day, around the world, people walk long distances to fetch water or find somewhere to go to the bathroom. Families lose time they could be working, and children often miss school. People suffer from preventable waterborne diseases by drinking and using contaminated water. Nearly 1 in 3 people lacks access to safe water. 1 in 2 people doesn't have a safe toilet. Typical approaches to fix this problem fail. A new pump or bathroom is donated, and the project is celebrated as a success. But in reality, pumps break, and without money or mechanics to fix them, these communities are again left without water, proving that short-term solutions are not enough. Water for People works differently by developing systems that keep water flowing for everyone, forever. We believe in partnering with local communities, governments, and businesses to design and build water and sanitation solutions that reach everyone in a region and keep water flowing forever. Everyone means every family, every clinic, and every school has access to water and sanitation services. And forever means these communities can sustain their new services, independent of any ongoing international aid. Because charity alone can't solve the problem, we believe in sharing costs. We don't provide 100% of project financing. Local governments and communities invest money as well. Building water systems is just the beginning. We equip local entrepreneurs, government officials, and communities so they can manage their own water systems, while continuing to provide ongoing assistance and monitoring until we're confident everyone has water that will last forever. So partner with us to reach everyone forever.
All right, now that you know a little bit about our model, let's talk about how that model continues to work in something like a global pandemic. Like everyone in our global family right now, we have spent the last year adapting. COVID-19 has highlighted the disparities that exist when talking about something that seems so simple, like hand washing. While health risks are at an all-time high, we are leaning into what we know. We know clean water saves lives. We know that hygiene education and proper sanitation saves lives. So now more than ever, we continue to push forward with our work whenever possible. Many of our staff and families across the globe have been affected by the pandemic. In India specifically, we continue to see terrifying spikes in COVID infection and death rates. For reference, India reported more than 350,000 new cases on May 4th. Keeping people safe has always been our top priority, so we continue to be cautious, and employees have been working from home for much of this time. In our programs, we have experienced project delays in almost all countries, since such an important part of our work is in partnership with local government offices and in communities that have had COVID lockdowns. But without exception, our donors are very understanding and have been flexible with our grant requirements and funding. One silver lining to the situation is that although we've not historically partnered very closely with ministries of health in the three areas of Africa that we work, all were quick to request our support for COVID response. This included supporting wash services and distributing PPE in priority healthcare facilities, installing permanent hand washing stations in some public locations, including Kampala, Uganda, and COVID prevention communication campaigns in Malawi. In addition to the threat and extreme challenges that COVID-19 provided, Honduras and other countries in Central America were hit by devastating hurricanes Eta and Iota. In Honduras specifically, we saw dramatic drops in service with damaged water systems, extensive flooding, and many faced displacement because homes were destroyed. Because of this, our team in Honduras has worked to reprioritize programmatic work this year to focus on rehabilitation efforts. But despite these challenges, we are still optimistic that we will hit most, if not all, of our targets in our 2017 to 2021 strategic plan by the end of the strategy period next year. A lot will depend on the COVID situation and how it plays out over the next coming months. In the 2021-2022 calendar year, our goal is to reach over 100 schools and clinics with improved water and sanitation services. In total, that's a goal of almost 56,000 people reached in schools and over 5,500 people reached in clinics. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Christine.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. I'm Christine Mazzullo. I'm Water for People's Director of Donor Engagement. And just coming back to that icebreaker question that Julia had mentioned at the start of the town hall, personally for me this past year, I share Eleanor's silver lining, just an amazing opportunity to connect in more deeply with my family, but also to connect with my values and what matters most to me with a lot more intention. And so I actually, like Chelsea, joined the Water for People team just over the last few months with a lot of intention and excitement to support such an amazing organization. And in looking at it, just observing the impact from a silver lining standpoint for Water for People itself, certainly COVID has really drawn a lot more attention around the importance of access to water, particularly in the area of hand washing. So for Water for People's focus for the work that it's progressing forward with, I think it's drawn a lot more understanding of the importance of our mission. So that in sort of an indirect way has been a silver lining, I think, for the organization this past year. But I'm going to take you through just some ways to be more engaged with the organization. So, this is where you come in. You've joined us here for today's town hall with your, as a result of your very generous support of the organization. And there's more ways that you can deepen your connection to Water for People. If you could take me to the next slide, Julia. And these are just a couple of them. The first is really just to make sure that you're connecting in with us on all of our social channels, because what you'll find there are, like today, a community of people that are interested and invested in the same way that you are in ending the world water crisis. So please join us on our social channels. The other is to consider volunteering. We're very fortunate that through the American Waterworks Association, there are over 50 local committees across the United States and Canada, and they support Water for People through advocating and community outreach, through fundraising, and so they're always doors open looking for new people to join them and volunteering. So that's an option and a way to get more involved. Another way is to get your company or workplace more involved, and that can be through workplace giving. Many companies will match donations to Water for People, and if you'd like to find out if your company is one of those, you can visit our website and you can just type it into the search on that page and find out if that's something that they do. But also we love to partner with companies and brands that are also committed to making a difference. So it might be an introduction that you might make on behalf of your company to Water for People. Be sure to subscribe to our email communication. That's probably the very best place to learn about the new, what's most current in terms of what's happening at Water for People, but also to get invitations to supporter events like these. And we're very excited that coming soon, we're going to be launching something called the Ripple Effect. And the Ripple Effect is really a dedicated platform that will support you in doing your own fundraising for Water for People locally. And we have some ideas that you'll see on that site, but you can also create your very own event. We encourage as much creativity as possible. So those are just some of the ways that you can get involved with Water for People. And so what we're going to share with you now, one of the things that we love to do is connect with the why you've chosen Water for People for your support. And so many of our donors have provided us with a video testimonial of why they're committed to Water for People and why it's important to them. And so I'm going to share with you just one of these videos. This is one of our supporters, Jennifer Liggett, and she does a wonderful, amazing job of sharing what her why is. So let's view this together.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Liggett. I'm a drinking water technologist with Jacobs Engineering and currently working out of my home office here in Aurora, Colorado. I've been working in the water industry for over 12 years, and over this time, I have grown to have an appreciation for the value of clean water. It's something that many of us take for granted and many people in the world don't have access to. Water for People is a leading charitable organization that is highly rated to provide innovative solutions that are sustainable for many of the communities in the 9 countries in which they operate. I am proud to be a supporter and someone who's donated to Water for People for many years due to the sustainable model and due to the fact that their solutions work and are sustainable and have huge impacts on the communities in which they are operating. Thank you, Water for People.
And I wouldn't want to leave out probably one of the most exciting ways that's new to Water for People, for a way that you can deepen your connection to our organization. This past spring, we launched a new reoccurring donation program called Club 6. And the 6 in the name Club 6 is a nod to the United Nations the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 6. To ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And so what Club 6 really does, it offers an opportunity, an accessible opportunity really for anyone to support this important goal. And right now, when you join Club 6, there's a very cool Club 6 t-shirt that you'll get as you become a member. And there will be lots of really interesting opportunities along the way for Club 6 members to connect with us. So if you're interested in joining Club 6, I'd encourage you to visit our website and learn more. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Julia.
Great. Thank you, Christine, and thank you to all of our speakers. I think that provided a really awesome foundation, not only for folks who are newer to our work, but also a foundation for our Q&A session. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I can see all of our speakers came back on their videos. So we will go ahead and get started with some of the questions that were submitted ahead of time. Again, there is that Q&A feature here on the call. If there are any questions that came up when you were hearing the overviews that you would like to hear answered, so feel free to use that feature here on Zoom to ask any questions that you might have live. But I think before we start on for a question, I think Eleanor is going to share her silver lining for the organization as a whole, something that she didn't get to in the intro, but will be a good place to start us off for the session.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. I realized I had forgotten to answer that second part of your question, and I really liked Christine and Chelsea's responses. Thinking back to a year ago, the world was upside down, and so were we. We didn't know which way things were going at Water for People. What I'm really grateful for is that creativity that was mentioned earlier as well of our team, our ability to pivot and come up with new ways to engage, this being one of them, of course, with our partners and our supporters, and the enthusiasm and initiative that we have seen across the world from our employees about continuing on our mission. Even in very difficult times, we are an essential service to the people we serve and finding ways to get our work done despite a global pandemic, and I'm really grateful for that. With crisis comes opportunity, and we've definitely seen that at Water for People. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Eleanor. So I'm going to pass the first question off to Christine, just kind of coming off that last part about how folks can get involved. So for folks who maybe do have a background in the water or wastewater sector, are there any specifics about projects or other ways that water operators can help?
Yeah, so Water for People has its World Water Corps, which is really more geared towards on the technical side of things through research and reports and sometimes visits to the field. World Water Corps volunteers are helping our teams in all the countries where we work adapt and create strategies. But most of the work, it really centers around desk study. And this past year, 2 of those desk study assignments that were all done remotely included an internal carbon study to form a policy for Water for People. I think that's an area or an issue that it seems like there's a lot of conversation about across many companies and in many sectors. And the other was a landscape of vulnerable populations in the US and Canada to better understand where we fit into this dynamic. So those were just two areas that our World Water Corps volunteers were able to support us with this past year.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. Yeah, we have also some emails that go out to our World Water Corps volunteers with new assignments as they get posted. So if you are interested, there is a list that you can sign up to receive those email notifications in the future. The availability and frequency of the World Water Corps positions are definitely driven by the need of not only our Denver office, but really of country offices where we work. So if they are looking for a specific background or expertise, that's oftentimes when we'll post a World Water Corps position. So now transferring a bit to some of the programmatic work that was covered earlier in the town hall, wanted to pass this off to you, Eleanor. So when we're talking about these actual systems that are getting built, so when we're reaching that everyone part of Everyone Forever that Chelsea went over and that we saw in the video, who actually performs the installation of those new systems?
Our water systems, we typically are partner with government, municipal or district. And so the government will follow their procurement practices and award the design contracts and the construction contracts to local contractors. We have a role in the oversight of the designs for cost estimating, quality control, and we also participate in overseeing the construction as funder. So we want to make sure that's quality construction. What typically happens for the larger systems during the construction phase is when they're in a community, they will hire local community members to help during the construction phase. And then of course, jobs are created also on a permanent basis once the systems are up and running in the oversight and operation and maintenance.
Great. And just one additional question on that too, for folks who maybe have been involved with other organizations or this type of work in the past, how would you say that that's different maybe than even how we operated in the past, or how other organizations who maybe work in the water and wastewater space internationally do their project installations?
Yeah, it is quite different. You can see from our backgrounds here, we're celebrating our 30th birthday this year. For our first 20 years, we had a very different model. We were a volunteer-based organization, and our volunteers did do the construction, and we flew people from the US to 40 different countries, and we did projects. But what we didn't do, and what we've learned since then, is we didn't actively engage the community and train the community how to do the operation and maintenance and how to properly charge for service so they would have funds to buy spare parts. So we shifted our model in 2010 to be much more sustainable and locally based. And this is what we're doing still today. So we took on, we divested down to 9 countries from 40, took on a whole district. And these programs take 5 to 10 years and really focused on capacity building and a knowledge transfer for the planning, design, and construction of the systems. So this is part of Everyone Forever. We want the systems to keep running forever. And this is a huge part of that learning that we had. Instead of building and systems failing, we now build and they continue to run.
Absolutely. It's so important. And I think that that's one of my favorite parts of Water for People's journey, is that we did have to look inward at our own work and how we operated, and understanding that there was always room to improve. And I think that we're really great about that even now as an organization, always looking for ways that we can improve our model, our transparency, our different values, and how we can be more aligned with who we want to be as an organization. But I think that last piece, Eleanor, that you were saying about that long-term investment feeds in nicely to our next question, which I'll pass to Chelsea. So how long does it take on average to reach everyone forever in a community? I think we briefly touched about this on the video and Eleanor mentioned it again, but what does that timeline look like for Water for People?
Yeah, great question. As I know Eleanor just mentioned the 5 to 10. In each district that we work, it is different, and each district has different needs, but we spend years, not days, in communities around the globe. So while drilling wells and installing pipes might take only days or weeks, building pipe infrastructure and making sure that it lasts often takes years. An example I love to use is the progress that we've seen in Rulindo, which is where our model was born. The progress we've seen over the past 10 years to reach total coverage is great proof that our model works and that it takes time. We're committed to doing the job right, and we don't call our work finished until we're confident water will flow long after we leave. And you can learn more about this by watching our mini doc, the Rolindo Challenge, that documents the progress and milestones we've reached in Rolindo. And I'm sure that Georgia will drop a link in the chat.
Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah, maybe we'll have to celebrate Georgia at the end of this. She's one of our colleagues who's been on the back end helping to make sure that these events go smoothly. So thank you to Georgia. And thank you, Chelsea, for that answer. The Rolindo documentary and the journey there of the Rolindo Challenge has been really exciting. And I think an amazing learning opportunity and story, not only for internal Water for People colleagues and staff, but really for our partners. I think I've gotten to talk with a lot of them who have been there or traveled to Rwanda and Rolindo specifically at the beginning of the Rolindo Challenge. And I think that they have their own personal investment in the story and the success of the Everyone Forever model. So Eleanor, I'll pass this next one off to you. So in the areas where Water for People works, have other communities or neighboring districts nearby been able to learn from our efforts and start to develop their own systems in their communities?
Yes, great question. They definitely have. I want to build also on Chelsea's response. Rolindo's in Rwanda, for those who don't know or haven't heard of Rolindo. And in our districts in Africa are hundreds of thousands. Rolindo is 300,000. So those are on the longer end of our 8 to 10 year programs, and Rolindo was a 10-year program. Latin America, it's tens of thousands for a district, so those take a short amount of time, like on the 5 years. And India, we have hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of people, and those are also major programs. What's interesting about a Rolindo type program, it takes a decade, is that people who live in the next district over are watching and really trying to see what's happening. And what that drives is more demand for our programs than we can supply. So we have a pretty selective new district entry criteria. And sometimes districts say, we're going to do this on our own. So they'll figure out a way to start developing their own water systems, maybe not on a district level, but community level, because each district is, in hundreds of communities in a scale of Rolindo. What's also interesting, what we see in Malawi, for example, is we do have a lot of groundwater systems there. So when communities develop a well, you go to the well, you fill up your jerry cans, and you pay for that volume of water. And so there's a certain amount of revenue collected. Some of those water service authorities can save enough water beyond spare parts and save enough to drill a new well. So we've also seen that happen in many places where we work, where the water committees or the Water Users Association will say, yeah, we know how to do this now. We've learned how to do sustainable water service delivery, and we can do it on our own, which is the ultimate testimonial to our work. And what we really like is so we don't have to be there anymore. And that's when we can exit, which is what also our model's about, making sure we can exit and we don't need to be there in the long term.
Thank you, Eleanor. And I think one other piece on that I want to expand on or ask another question on is, so that's an example of how I think partnerships can look like with governments and districts and community groups. What does Water for People's partnerships look like with other international NGOs, maybe other organizations who are working in similar districts or regional areas to Water for People?
We are all about partnerships because we want to leverage our own knowledge and others' knowledge to reach more people. So we have, of course, we have the government partnerships, as we've mentioned. We have also many partners that are a civil society or NGO or nonprofit organizations. Two that I'd like to mention are one we call Agenda for Change. So other WASH dedicated water, sanitation, hygiene nonprofits that believe in what we believe in, which is the sustainable services, so building infrastructure, but also creating the systems that keep the water flowing, the water systems running. Agenda for Change is an organization that we helped create and that we are a part of that has members from all over the world. So those are definitely some of our partners. And we also partner with other organizations like Sanitation Water for All, which also has government partners as well. Another one that has private sector partners, Toilet Board Coalition, more on the sanitation side. And there are many others I can mention. In each country, we have networks and alliances with other country level dedicated civil society partners. So yes, open to partnerships, open to new ideas. As long as we can reach more people, we're very interested in having conversations.
Yes, I've seen that as a huge theme at Water for People, that partnerships is core to who we are and how we continue to do great work. And so I'll actually expand this question. I'll open it to anyone here who'd like to answer. So that was a great kind of overview of partnership in the technical space. Are there any examples or anecdotes that people would like to share of partnerships in the kind of donor, supporter, kind of volunteer group space? I think that's another area that we really love to honor and celebrate partnerships. So wondering if any other panelists would like to speak to that.
I can speak to corporate partners as well. We have many different types of corporate partnerships. Our historical roots are in the U.S. water wastewater sector, so we have many consulting firms, equipment suppliers, and others that are in that space that have been with us over this whole journey for 30 years. We also have other partners that are more consumer goods based. So for example, we have Kimberly-Clark as a partner, we have Colgate as a partner, we have others that are more mainstream type corporate partners, and we're always looking for this as well. I mean, everybody uses water somehow in their production, so often we can be a good partner for corporate social responsibility and for companies that have ESG goals for environment, social, and governance. We love to have those conversations too.
Awesome, yeah. And Christine, did you want to
Yeah,
add?
no, I was just going to, I know I mentioned it in some of the information that I shared, but partnerships, we have lots of volunteering partnerships across the committees, the World Water Corps, many of the items that I mentioned, the areas that I mentioned that we have engagement opportunities in. And so those are just incredibly important to have people, that work in the water sector's support, but also the broader support of the community and understanding, what we're seeking to accomplish and joining with us in that. So.
Thank you. Yeah, just to add one other piece on that, I think we've seen such a exciting momentum around even smaller companies, maybe who are brand new or just in the first couple of years of them starting, reaching out to us and saying that they really want to make a statement, they want to get involved, and they want their financial support to align with their values as a company. And so I think that's been a growing movement that we've seen. And we know that we're seeing not only employees want to be a part of companies who stand by values and organizations like Water for People, but also consumers who are wanting to buy products that are sustainably made and also that are going to support larger causes. So I think that there are a lot of ways, either with your workplace, with you as an individual, how you shop, that there are ways to support Water for People and beyond. So I'm going to pass this to Eleanor, but I would encourage other speakers to keep it in the back of their minds. So I'm going to go really big here with this question. So Christine mentioned Sustainable Development Goal number 6. So audacious goals set globally for 2030, which is crazy to say that that is less than 10 years away. But what do you see as being Water for People's biggest challenge? And I'd also like to throw in opportunity as you work towards SDG number 6.
So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are, there are 17 of them. And number 6 is the one we talk about the most, which is sustainable water and sanitation for all. Really, in our world, this is about what we can do to help a country reach Sustainable Development Goal number 6. So we tie all our work actually to this at the current time. We have a 10-year vision to now 9 years to 2030. We call Destination 2030. That's focused on helping countries reach this goal. And that means figuring out the planning to get services to everyone in that country, the policies and regulations needed, the funding needed, the investment in building infrastructure, but also creating the water and sanitation offices or the utilities or responsible parties to keep the infrastructure running. And helping set the right rates so that revenue comes in to cover the cost of services. All of that is aligned to SDG 6. And so our our reason for being is to help governments and countries reach SDG 6. And it really also touches on many other things we do. We talk about reaching everyone in every household, clinic, and school. So we work with Sustainable Development Goals on improving access to education, improving health, about the ability to have better economic empowerment for families if you have more time to work versus being sick or taking care of others or fetching water. Also about the SDGs about infrastructure development at the community level. That's of course part of what we do. Gender equality, climate. We work a lot on water resources plans to help protect our water resources for the systems where we work, and watershed planting, reforestation. And then of course, number 17, SDG 17 is about partnerships. So we're back, come full circle. And it's all about figuring out who we can work with to maximize our impact.
Thanks, Eleanor. Yeah, when I first learned about the Sustainable Development Goals, my favorite part about them was how interconnected they all were. I think that you can't talk about one or achieve one in a silo. You really have to look at them overall. And so I'll give, I don't know, Christine or Chelsea want to add on to that, but I will cheat. I feel like as moderator, you're not supposed to answer your own question, but I am going to answer my own question. One of the opportunities that I think, and Eleanor touched a little bit on this in terms of the investment, is the conversations that we can have about what it really takes to reach SDG 6 and really all of the Sustainable Development Goals. I think that we have seen such incredible generosity from our partners, both at the individual, foundation, and corporate level. And I think that those are some of the most exciting conversations about what we need and what we can do together to reach those goals by 2030. So that is with my professional role hat on, but I think that those are some of the most exciting conversations. And to Eleanor's point, back full circle to the partnership piece. So always a good place to end on. Christine or Chelsea, anything else you want to add on that one?
I think I'd just add on to that this idea that everything is interconnected, and even that there are generational consequences to some of this. And so I think one of the really neat tools that really helps sort of give people a visual for what this looks like is on our website, we have this impact calculator. And so what it helps you see is that when you give, that it has like exponential impact, and so, whatever people give to the organization then is just is made that much bigger through this broader impact that it has. And I think that's an important piece to keep in mind.
Definitely, that is a very cool resource for folks who are interested in learning not only a little bit about that co-investment piece that we talked about earlier, but really how your investment can be multiplied in terms of the work that we do. So I think we're coming up on the last few minutes. So I just wanted to pose this again to all panelists. For new supporters or new partners, folks who maybe didn't know about Water for People even just a few months ago, what would be the one takeaway message that you would want them to leave with, not only from this town hall, but in terms of their continued engagement with Water for People? So one parting message.
I'll go ahead and I'll start. So first, I guess I'd want to just express my gratitude again for your support and how important it is, but also just to say that in giving and supporting Water for People, you're making a real investment for all the reasons that we talked about today, for the model that we know works, for our, our Destination 30, our future planning. And so it's an investment that is a wise one, and an investment that will have real impact.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I want to talk over you. Yeah, again, also expressing my gratitude to everyone for donating, for joining today. I think going back a little bit to our last question, but partnerships, so having you along this journey with us, you are making a tremendous impact in our work and families that need access to water and sanitation across the globe. So just again, gratitude.
My parting thoughts are, if you're still listening to us and you made it through this session or this video, it means you're quite interested in the topic, which we're grateful for. Somehow water resonates with you, and bringing people water seems like something that we should be doing, and we absolutely agree with that. And I would also challenge you to think beyond just the importance of having water in someone's home. It's about sustaining that service for the future. And while what we do seems simple on the surface, just having people have water in their homes, is quite complicated to actually have that water service continue in this country, in the US, but it's become a service we take for granted. It's quite complicated, but especially in the countries where we work. So thank you for your curiosity and your interest and your support. And hope you continue to learn more about the work that we do, and that you will support us on our mission to bring water and sanitation to everyone forever. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, that brings us to time, everyone. So thank you for joining. Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing their experience and perspective. I think that there continues to be such an amazing amount of questions from partners and supporters. And so I am really grateful for opportunities like this to be able to answer some of those. So thank you again for those who are watching, for those who might watch the recording. Thank you to Carollo, our presenting sponsor. And with that, we will see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.